Hey everyone, what's good? Jubitaz back with a new episode of your favorite series, the Why Do People Hate videos, where today we're not going to look at a specific character, but rather we're gonna look at the most polarizing clan in the shinobi world, the Uchiha clan. Despite their prominence in the show, and despite how many popular characters are from the Uchiha clan, there's also a lot of hate or discrimination directed at the clan as a whole, both from the characters and the fanbase. And the hate sometimes extends to the Uchiha fans. I mean, we get called Uchiha tards all the time. Probably because the other subsects of the fanbase are salty that the Uchiha hoarded most of the screen time and attention of the Kishimoto. Others don't like the clan because they're too edgy and sometimes problematic, or because of the curse of hatred that Tobirama fabricated to smear the entire clan as untrustworthy potential terrorists. And there are many more reasons, which I'll try to get to in today's analysis of why do people hate the Uchiha clan. Now, before we begin this video, make sure that you like and share, and other than that, let's get straight to it. Exhibit A. The Uchiha's pride in their clan. Now, as one of the strongest clans of all time, the Uchiha had a very strong pride and commitment to their clan. Due to how versatile and formidable their Kekkei Genkai was, any Uchiha that awakened the Sharingan was considered a genius, and the base Sharingan alone was sometimes enough to make a Jonin retreat. This led to the Uchiha having worldwide notoriety about how skilled and powerful they were, a clan of geniuses and prodigies. So naturally, the Uchiha were very prideful and developed a very strong clan identity. They were all devoted to their clan and saw it as superior to everyone, which is a part of why there was so much hate directed against them. That's why they were considered to be incompatible with the Leaf Village's ideology and had a problematic relationship with the leadership. That's why Itachi had such a troubled relationship with this clan. He saw their pride, which they valued over the stability and overall peace within the village, as arrogance, a regressive quality that held them back. Obsessed with the clan, obsessed with our lineage, a worthless compulsion that enslaves us and limits our capabilities, leading us to fear what we don't understand. As a self-proclaimed pacifist, Itachi strove to maintain the fragile peace offered by the village, and his role as a double agent put him at odds with the Uchiha clan, who were not willing to concede and escalated matters by planning a coup d'etat that could trigger a civil war, which would lead to disaster for all those in Konoha, all because of their pride. You could almost connect that quote that Itachi said about being the best to the Uchiha clan. When you have power, you become arrogant and isolated from the world, no matter how coveted and sought after you were in the beginning. Itachi was likely thinking about the reputation of his clan, and that same saying would ironically apply to him too through Sasuke's point of view when Itachi decided to take on the village's darkness by himself. So yes, the Uchiha's rebellious nature and their defiance to the village's authority has caused a lot of the village higher-ups and the Uchiha loyal to Konoha to hold unfavorable views of the clan. Now, in the clan's defense, I will say that their resistance to the village's authority wasn't unreasonable, as they were stripped away from all major seats of power and kept under surveillance, which was intentionally done by the second Hokage when he created the Leaf Police Force in order to keep an eye on the clan and ensure that another Madara couldn't rise. And then the scrutiny and surveillance on the clan was exacerbated after the Nine Tails incident, which was almost unilaterally blamed on the Uchiha. So you could say that the Uchiha's prideful and somewhat rebellious attitude towards the village was a self-fulfilling prophecy, or the consequence of the policies inflicted upon them. When you treat people like bad guys, they eventually become just that in response. Exhibit B is the Curse of Hatred, which is believed to be the condition an Uchiha goes through when he awakens the Sharingan or the Mangekyo Sharingan, at least according to Tobirama. That's why he believed that the Uchiha clan was a clan haunted by evil, evil created as a result of losing strong love. The second Hokage explained that no clan felt love to the same extent as the Uchiha clan, that their powers of love exceeded even that of the Senju, and that once an Uchiha that had known a great love came to lose that powerful feeling, they are taken over by an even greater hatred. and that acts as a trigger to the evolution of their Sharingan. So this curse of hatred phenomenon has promoted this idea that the Uchiha were just inherently evil because of their visual jutsu. And considering the fact that the four main Uchiha were the main antagonist at a certain point in the story, and the fact that the clan itself hails from Indra, the bitter, malicious elder brother who was overlooked by the sage as his successor and believed in power over teamwork, this has led to an anti-Uchiha bias both within the verse and the fanbase, because of how troublesome the Uchiha could potentially get, under certain circumstances of course. The thing was, the Sharingan matured as the Uchiha experienced emotionally charged moments. That's how the Mangekyo Sharingan was awakened. However, it wasn't necessarily bound by hatred. Hatred was just one possible outcome. Not every Uchiha that awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan fell to this alleged curse of hatred, and those that did usually underwent very specific and difficult circumstances that would drive anyone into despair. You'll see a lot of people generalize and say that every Uchiha is inherently evil because of the second Hokage's anti-Uchiha propaganda, despite the fact that there were Uchiha with the Mangekyo Sharingan that didn't show symptoms of this curse of hatred. Shisui Uchiha is one example. He was dedicated to both the village and the clan, and he tried to resolve the conflict peacefully by using the Koro Amatsukami on the clan to avert the coup. He was a righteous shinobi through and through, and so was Sarada when she awakened her Mangekyo. This proves that the curse of hatred wasn't absolute as Tobirama and the elders thought. The curse of hatred was used as a smear tactic to provoke fear and distrust against the Uchiha clan, and even if it did apply to some Uchiha, it wasn't applicable to every member of the clan. And even the more extreme cases of this rage and hatred induced by the Mangekyo Sharingan were cases that were manipulated by external factors. They were by no means normal circumstances, like Sasuke for example, who had his entire identity shattered when he learned that the person who he spent the past 9 years training to kill was actually the one that was looking out for him the most, and that he'd been lied to about his family's death for his entire life. Or Obito, who'd been left to die in a cave, lost half his body, and was trapped underground with this madman that knew how vulnerable one was when maturing the Sharingan, and orchestrated Obito's downfall by exposing him to the worst thing he could see at his lowest point, to essentially sell him the Eye of the Moon plan and destroy any hope he had left in reality. The Sharingan reacts to the individual's emotions, that's true. However, those two cases were uniquely manipulated to crash out, and both Sasuke and Obito were likely not going to have these episodes if they weren't set up that way by external factors. The Uchiha aren't even the only anime characters that have powers that react to their emotions, but because the Uchiha that were important to the story experienced the curse of hatred, it promoted this false narrative that all Uchiha were just inherently evil, something that Tobirama and Danzo promoted, and that's why many characters and fans hate the Uchiha. However, I do think it gets exaggerated, and this is a form of discrimination against the Uchiha as a whole. Exhibit C, Tobirama Senju. Now it goes without saying that the second Hokage earned the reputation of that guy that just hates the Uchiha, or is just racist against the Uchiha, despite it being a bit more complex than that, and him not even being the character that hated the Uchiha the most. That would be Danzo. But anyways, Tobirama's wariness and distrust of the Uchiha clan and his creation of the Uchiha police force in order to keep the clan under the close watch of the Yambu to prevent the rise of another Madara has led to a lot of Tobirama fans and anti-Uchiha fans in general to just hate the Uchiha for just the fuck of it, almost for the sake of being racist or discriminatory. It's like a meme trend to hate on the Uchiha in the Naruto community. So there's a lot of people that hate the Uchiha just to fit in, really. And these same people will justify Tobirama's every stance and act like he was perfect, that it was reasonable for him to consider the entire clan as potentially dangerous because of Madara and because of Tobirama's experiences with the Uchiha clan during the Warring States era, as if that's not a biased, preconceived notion, and as if the Senju didn't kill as many Uchiha children in the war. Madara said that he used to have 4 brothers and they were all killed in battle, and it was heavily implied that they all died at the hands of the Senju clan. That's why he cut ties with Hashirama when he found out the clan that he'd hailed from. A decision that wasn't easy to take, and that's why Madara awakened his Sharingan. And then when Madara grew up, he lost his last brother to Tobirama, and even then he was willing to put that past aside initially. So you could say that Madara had a stronger reason than Tobirama to not trust the Senju. And it was a combination of Tobirama's discriminatory remarks about the Uchiha clan and Black Zetsu's meddling with the Uchiha stone tablet that made Madara lose faith in the village, which he now saw as just quiet conflict rather than actual peace, considering how Tobirama was bad-mouthing the Uchiha behind his back. And once his clansmen rejected his warnings and saw him as a warmonger, Madara saw Hashirama's world as destined to fail, and he set his eyes on the infinite Tsukuyomi. Now, I'm not saying that Madara is a saint or that he has the moral high ground, but just that Tobirama wasn't a saint either. Both characters were morally grey to an extent, and while Tobirama had a reason to doubt the Uchiha, Madara had a reason to question the village, and his warnings did come to fruition. The Uchiha clan did become oppressed by the village, just like he predicted. Madara was another case like Obito and Sasuke, where he was influenced by an external factor, that being Black Zetsu. However, where both Obito and Sasuke had some humanity left, Madara was completely detached from reality that nothing and no one could move him. He was the Uchiha that went too far, and where Tobirama left his disciples to carry out his will, Madara brought himself back to life several years after he died to drag everyone into his mess. He basically put his all into the Eye of the Moon plan, which is what made him the perfect victim for Zetsu. Exhibit D. The Uchiha are hated because of how overpowered they are and how much focus they get by the author. You can say that the fans of other characters in Naruto are jealous that the main Uchiha got disproportionately more importance and screen time than their favorite characters, and they hate how overpowered the Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan are, despite Kishimoto giving the Uchiha a lot of setbacks for these abilities in an attempt to balance them out. Frankly, I think a lot of fans are kinda like Deidara when it comes to the Uchiha clan. They see them as too cool, too powerful, and too full of themselves, and that just irks them. Meanwhile, their favorite characters are getting off-screened by Genkaku and Kinkaku, or dying as a casual victim in the war arc, and these normie fans just can't stand the chads that are the Uchiha, and us Uchiha tarts choking their shafts. LMAO. I know I'm gonna piss a lot of people off with what I'm saying, but relax, you shouldn't take everything I say too seriously. It's not the Uchiha's fault that they were given such overpowered genes and inherent swag, and to offset that, Kishimoto gave them a tragic life, a painful death, and a lot of edge. Like, frankly, you guys should get over it. It's 2025. You don't see the Saiyans get the same amount of complaints for being the main race of their manga. But anyways, I think we've come to the conclusion of this video. I mean, honestly, the series made it clear enough why there was so much hate directed at the Uchiha clan, from their overpowered abilities, the resulting arrogance and superiority complex, as well as all the problems that were raised by members of the Uchiha clan. I will say that the Uchiha were misunderstood, and it's the discrimination and villainization of individuals that turns them into actual villains. The Uchiha clan gave us some of the most complex and compelling and well-written characters in the story, with some of the most unique and interesting abilities, backstories, designs. The Uchiha carried the war arc. It honestly would have been shit without them, and frankly, most of the story. Heck, most of the best fights and storylines revolve around the Uchiha. And you can call me an Uchiha tard, you can call me an Uchiger, whatever. I truly believe a lot of this hate comes from a place of jealousy.
Hate us because they ain't us. Exactly. They hate us because they ain't us.
Anyways, this has been the Why Do People Hate the Uchiha Clan video. Now, if you want me to look at the other end of the spectrum and do a Why Do People Hate Tobirama, then be sure to leave that in the comments. And if you want to see more videos like this, then may I suggest my Why Do People Hate playlist, where you'll find all sorts of analysis as to why certain characters are hated in the Naruto fanbase. Otherwise, I gotta head out. Peace.